Now, after that, we have identified the data frame that we are working with to check if, in case there's any missing values. We have seen the target distribution. Uh, there are two main functions also. They are very easy to use to present the data, which including the data frame head and data frame tail. As you guessed it right, so df head, it would give you the first five rows within your data, and df.tail will give you the last five rows on your data frame. Let's now try to find the frequency, the hard disk frequency based on the gender that we have, which is males and females. To start with that, we are gonna specify the data frame and the variable that we're trying to access, in our case, which is the sex value. Let's see the count, value count. As we mentioned that, this will return to find based on gender. Let's run this code and then see the output. Okay. So as you could see that we have first one represent males. So let's type that here. One is equal to male. On the other hand, 0 So we have accessed the sex feature or gender feature within our data frame by using df.sex, and then we try to find the counts, the value counts, which has returned showing how many males and females are in the data set we have. Why did we use this function? So first we try to understand the gender distribution between our data sets. So our data set contains mainly males, and we have 96 female. So it has helped us to understand the gender distribution. Also, we try to check for, in case if we have imbalance in some data set, there might be some males than females, or vice versa. In our case, we have males more than female. Identifying such imbalances can help with the decision related to the model training, especially if you need to account for class imbalance. Now let's try to understand and compare the target column with the sex column. So let's see the contingency table to compare the target with its relation with the sex, for example. We'll use this time dot crosstab function. Crosstab. We'll set our data frame to specify the target variable. Also, the df.sex That will help us compare the target variable or column using cross tabulation. So let's run this code and then we can discuss more about the findings. Okay, so as you could see that we have 0 represent in sexes the female and male has 1 and target as we have here set to 0, which means has no heart disease, while 1 has a heart disease. So as you could see that we have, for example, we can conclude this by saying that this function has returned the comparison of the two columns, the target column, which is the heart disease indicator, and the sex column, which include males and female. It shows the relationship between the target variable, whether or not the person has a heart disease. And based on the data that we have, let me summarize this by saying, for example, we have 72 female out of total of 96 has a heart disease. As you can see here is the female, and we have 72 female has a heart disease, and that represent more than 75% of the total um, female distribution that we have. If you recall that we have identified the total female numbers as uh, the proportion of the female compared to the males. Okay, here we have 207 men and we have 96 women. So as you could see here, we have around 72 women who has heart disease, while 24 who has no heart disease for female. However, on men's side, we have 114 men who has no heart disease compared to 93 cases where men has heart disease. If you think about the proportion or the percentage of women from the total that we have on our data set, you will find that the 72 women out of total of 96 has heart disease, and that represent around 75% of the total female. On the other hand, if you can, you know, spot also that you can find that only 93 men out of total of 207 who has a heart disease, and that is only around 45%. So the proportion of women's compared to the men within our data set, you could see that they have a higher proportion of having, compared to their total, having higher chances of getting heart disease. So this is a summary of how we can use crosstab. So crosstab, it's a good function. It provides you an insight to the gender and disease distribution that we have in our case. It has helped us to find the relationship between the target variable and a specific feature. And our example is the sex. Also, it has also identified to us the class imbalances. It has identified in case if we have any males more than females with their relationship to the heart disease.